Welcome to Sports Talk NYC. If you've been here before, you know exactly what we're doing. I'm back. I was on vacation, went to Puerto Rico, had a beautiful time. I'm back to work though, so here I am. Uh, a lot's happened since I've been gone. Uh, Baseball's at the All-Star break. Uh, the NBA is finally in the free agency process, and it's going nuts. It's going crazy. The NFL's the NFL. Can't really talk too much about it, though. Training camp's probably going to start up soon, a couple weeks. Uh, Tennis, Roger Federer is still the man, number one in the world again. The guy's a beast. Very much looking forward to the Brooklyn Nets season this upcoming season. I mean, I've walked by the stadium a few times. It's not 100% done right now, and it's July 13th. It's not 100% done. It's almost done. It's definitely gonna be done by September. It's massive. It looks beautiful. It's great. Uh, but of course, the stadium doesn't really mean much compared to how well the team is gonna play. Before maybe a couple months ago, I would have thought the Nets are probably gonna suck. They looked like they weren't gonna have Darren Williams. It looks like they weren't gonna get Dwight Howard. It looks like uh, it was just gonna be a team full of just one-year free agents that weren't going anywhere, weren't doing anything, and the Nets were gonna be in this huge rebuilding process. Flash forward to just a couple weeks ago, and everything has changed, and it definitely made me hopeful for this upcoming season. Darren Williams has decided to stay, and that was after the Nets pulled off this huge, maybe not huge, but not huge NBA wise, but huge for them trade, getting Joe Johnson from the Atlanta Hawks and not really giving up too much in return. Um, Joe Johnson he's a great scorer. I don't want to say he's been stuck in Atlanta because Atlanta's definitely a good team. It's always been a good team year in and year out. They just kind of fell into this hole where they never made it past the first or second round of the playoffs. So I don't want to say he was stuck in Atlanta, but he was stuck in a situation where it was the same thing year in and year out. And I think a fresh start may do him some good. Uh, Johnson is definitely underrated in the league after playing in Atlanta for so long. They don't get a lot of media and a lot of hype in that team. I've always loved the Atlanta Hawks, and I've always loved Joe Johnson. I felt like he's a guy who can score, excuse me, 20 to 25 points a night, and the Nets they haven't had that in quite some time. Bona fide shooting guard scorer. So I'm hopeful for that. Darren Williams decided to stay. He signed a 5-year deal worth close to $100 million, all well worth it, and he looks like he's sticking around, and that's great because he's easily top 5 point guards, probably even top 3 point guards in the league, and he'll be playing in Brooklyn with Joe Johnson. On top of that, the Dwight Howard talks. Most people wanted, rightfully so, most people wanted Howard to come to New Jersey, excuse me, to Brooklyn. And I feel like I'm one of few who didn't want to see that happen. Howard's a great player, don't get me wrong. He's a superstar. He's a franchise player. I get it. I see why the Nets would want him. But they have such a good team as it is now. I think that they can compete right now without Howard. And obviously trading for Howard would mean trading a lot of the good players left on the Nets roster outside of Johnson and Williams. So that leaves Marshawn Brooks to be traded, Brooke Lopez to be traded, and it doesn't. I wouldn't trade those guys. Obviously, Brooke Lopez is coming off a major injury where he only played about 5 games last year. and we don't know how good he's gonna play. But when he's healthy, he's a guy that can put up close to 20, close to 8 to 10 rebounds, which is a little low for a big man his size. But I'm almost sure he'll break out. I'm almost sure that this year, if he's healthy, he's gonna break out. He's gonna score 20. He's gonna get to 10 rebounds at least. And on top of that, I've been saying it for a while, but Marshawn Brooks, he's a stud. He's the next superstar, I think. One of the next up-and-comers. He hustles, he shoots, he plays pretty good defense. He has a very good all-around game. He's only 23 years old. I wouldn't let go of him if I were the Nets. I wouldn't trade him unless a tremendous deal came along where it favored the Nets better than it did the other team getting Brooks. Though any team getting Brooks is obviously getting a tremendous player with a huge, bright future. So that's a reason why I wouldn't have traded for Howard. With the starting five that the Nets have right now, it looks like it'll be Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, Gerald Wallace starting at small forward. You can put a huge question mark for the power forward position, and I'll get to that in a second. And hopefully you'd have Brook Lopez at the starting center, opening night in Brooklyn, And if that's the case, that starting five minus that question mark, that's a playoff team. In the East, that is a playoff team. The power forward position would need to get obviously just situated. And as it stands right now, Chris Humphrey and Brook Lopez in the starting five, and that is a playoff team right there. And then you have Marshawn Brooks as your sixth man of the year, pretty much. So I'd pretty much give him the thumbs up for that. He'd be my potential pick for sixth man of the year. You have Marshawn Brooks coming off the bench, sixth man. You have Reggie Evans, who I believe they just signed or recently signed, who's a pretty good shooter for a power forward who doesn't really get a lot of minutes. And then you kind of have your I guess your bench warmers and whatnot. And I'm sure, and they also got Jerry Stackhouse to shore up the bench a little bit, who is a wily old veteran who's still pretty dangerous. He may not be able to play too much, and he may not produce as much as he did in years past, but of course, he has a lot of experience, and he's still a good shooter. He can still play defense, and there's a lot of young guys on this team that could definitely take advantage of Stackhouse's expertise. So the Nets are looking good. I said they're a playoff team. With this team right now as is, and especially if they get back Humphreys, they are a playoff team. And that could mean, the 8th seed. Now, I think they're probably better than an 8th seed. They could probably shoot for, maybe 4 through 7, 4 through 8. I mean, any of those is a huge step forward compared to where they were this past season, the last couple seasons. And I feel like we haven't had a good Nets team since Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Richard Jefferson, Kenyon Martin. So since those guys were there, and that's been a while. It's been about 6 or 7 years since we had that team. And since then, it's been this huge rebuilding process, and finally, it looks like we're gonna get a good playoff team. And with Avery Johnson coaching, I have no doubts in his coaching ability. He did a tremendous job in Dallas. He did a very good job last season. The Nets are looking good. If they don't get Dwight Howard, I'd be 100% okay with that. I'd be 100% okay if they did not trade for Howard, because I feel like they have enough talent right now to compete. With Howard, would it push them over the top and make them a perennial contender, a title contender, I'm not sure. You have Miami, who continues to add all these pieces together. They've got Ray Allen now, Rashard Lewis. They're continuing to add these good pieces so that it goes beyond the big three. And as a Miami hater, that sucks. But I still think Brooklyn can contend. I still think that team as is can contend. With Howard, maybe they contend a little more. I don't see them being a title contender with or without Howard. That team would have to come together a lot because trading for Howard would mean trading Brooks and Lopez. It's not Brooks or Lopez, it's Brooks and Lopez. And those are two huge, pieces to this team. Dwight is not staying in Orlando. Whether he gets traded this offseason, whether he plays in Orlando next season and goes to free agency and does not go back to Orlando, it seems like a foregone conclusion that he's not staying in Orlando for too long. So if I were the Nets, if I were the Brooklyn Nets, I would wait. See how this team competes this year, and if it looks like they need Howard, then get him in the free agency because he's already said he wants to come to Brooklyn. He wanted the trade to go through. It didn't go through. But I'm sure he'd still like to come to Brooklyn. And if that's the case, free agency may be the best thing. I wouldn't trade Brooks, Lopez. I wouldn't come up with this package for him. Not now. I'm almost sure that if the Nets don't do it anyway, Dwight will probably be on his way to Houston or to LA, to either LA team really. He'll be probably on his way if the Nets don't try to get him now. But if on the off chance Dwight stays in Orlando this season, plays it out, leaves, then Brooklyn can get in on this. And they can get Howard, and we'll see from there. But as of right now, I wouldn't trade for Howard. The Nets have a playoff team right now. And if and when they sign Humphries in the coming days, it'll solidify that playoff chance. If they're a playoff team now, then that's it.